In the heart of West Africa, a 34-year-old army captain sleeps on a military cot while foreign mining companies watch billions in gold leave their control. The world's youngest president drives an electric car built by his own people and refuses the palace that awaits him. This isn't fiction. This is the reality of Burkina Faso under Ibrahim Traoré, the military leader who's either Africa's most authentic revolutionary or its most calculated performer. By the end of this video, you'll understand how a junior officer rose to lead a nation, why he's rejecting the trappings of power that corrupt so many leaders, and what his experiment in radical sovereignty could mean for the future of an entire continent. Before we dive deep into the extraordinary lifestyle choices and unconventional power moves of Africa's most watched young leader, hit subscribe and notification bell now, because what's happening in Burkina Faso isn't just changing one country, it's creating a blueprint that's already inspiring movements across borders. September 30th, 2022. Gunfire erupts in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso's capital. By nightfall, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, just 34 years old, announces on national television that he's removed Lieutenant Colonel Paul Henry Damiba, himself only in power for 8 months after another coup. In that moment, Traoré became the world's youngest head of state and inherited a country facing catastrophic challenges, jihadist insurgencies controlling 40% of the territory, 2 million displaced citizens, and an economy strangled by corruption. Most new leaders in such circumstances quickly adapt to presidential luxury, private jets, convoys of armored Mercedes, palatial residences, designer suits, Swiss bank accounts. But Traoré did something different, so different it's capturing global attention and forcing a rethinking of what leadership in struggling nations could look like. Today we're taking you inside the unprecedented lifestyle and governance choices of Africa's most unconventional leader, choices that have some calling him a dangerous populist and others hailing him as the authentic voice of a new generation. From his barracks bedroom to his electric vehicle initiative, from his radical economic reforms to his personal financial transparency, we're analyzing the real Ibrahim Traoré, beyond the propaganda and Western media narratives. When Ibrahim Traoré took power, one of his first decisions shocked diplomatic circles. The presidential palace in Ouagadougou, a sprawling colonial-era compound renovated multiple times at taxpayer expense, would not be his home. Instead, Traoré converted the palace into military headquarters for anti-terrorism operations, while maintaining his residence in the simple military barracks where he lived as a captain. His personal quarters reportedly contained just a bed, desk, small wardrobe, and a bookshelf filled with military strategy texts and Pan-African literature. To appreciate how unusual this choice is, consider that Teodoro Obiang of Equatorial Guinea lives in a $20 million palace, despite his country's poverty. Ali Bongo of Gabon maintained multiple luxury residences worth tens of millions. Even in relatively stable democracies like Senegal, presidential accommodations include colonial-era mansions with dozens of staff. In a rare 2023 interview, Traoré explained his reasoning: a leader's home should reflect the people's reality. How can I understand the struggles of our citizens while floating in luxury? The palace represents a colonial mentality we must break. Our presidential offices should be centers of work, not temples of privilege. Security experts point out that this choice also serves strategic purposes. Living among military personnel provides natural protection in a country where coup attempts are common, as proven when Traoré survived an alleged overthrow attempt in early 2023, reportedly organized by officers loyal to the previous junta. Critics call it performative populism, a calculated image-building exercise. Supporters see it as the genuine refusal of colonial-era symbols by a leader committed to transforming governance culture. Either way, It stands in stark contrast to neighboring countries where presidential palaces remain symbols of power and authority. For decades, the image of African leadership included long convoys of imported luxury vehicles. Ibrahim Traoré has deliberately shattered this tradition with a transportation choice that embodies his vision for Burkina Faso. In late 2023, Burkina Faso unveiled its first locally assembled electric vehicle, the ITA, meaning our vehicle in the Moor language. A collaboration between military engineers, local universities and tech startups. The ITA became Traoré's official transportation for domestic engagements. A compact solar rechargeable sedan with modest styling but significant symbolic value. Under Traoré's directive, the initiative expanded rapidly. By early 2025, over 200 EVs were deployed for ministerial transport, with plans for 1,000 solar-charged taxis operating in major cities by 2026. Each vehicle costs approximately 60% less to operate than imported fuel-powered alternatives. Finance Minister Aboubacar Nakanabo explained the financial logic before this initiative. We were spending $12 million annually importing vehicles and spare parts for government use. Every dollar spent went to foreign manufacturers. Now, 70% of that money stays in our economy, creating jobs and developing our technical capacity. The program hasn't been without challenges. Early prototypes suffered range limitations and reliability issues. International automotive experts questioned whether a country with limited industrial infrastructure could sustain complex vehicle manufacturing. But for Traoré, the initiative transcends transportation. In a 2024 speech inaugurating a solar charging station in Bobo Dioulasso, he framed it as a matter of national dignity. When a nation cannot produce what it uses daily, it remains eternally dependent. Our vehicles may be simple today, but they are ours. Tomorrow's models will be better, and the next generation better still. This is how sovereignty is built, step by step with pride in our own creation. For citizens, the sight of their president in a locally made vehicle rather than a bulletproof Mercedes has become a powerful symbol. Whether calculated political theater or genuine commitment to self-reliance, it represents a distinct break from established patterns of leadership consumption across the continent. Ibrahim Traoré's most controversial actions have centered on economic policy, particularly regarding Burkina Faso's vast mineral wealth. In June 2023, Traoré signed a decree nationalizing 60% of 4 major gold mines previously controlled by Canadian, Russian and Turkish companies. Burkina Faso is Africa's 5th largest gold producer, but historically saw minimal benefits from this natural wealth. The decree sent shockwaves through international mining circles. Western financial publications condemned it as resource nationalism that would scare away foreign investment. But internal government figures later revealed that the move redirected approximately $350 million in annual revenue back to state coffers. Mining Minister Jean-Baptiste Kabore defended the action for generations. Our gold departed while poverty remained. The previous agreements gave foreign companies 80 to 90% of profits while leaving us environmental damage and minimal tax revenue. This rebalancing ensures our resources benefit our development first. Traoré's economic sovereignty push extended to personal compensation for government officials. Upon taking power, he discovered that the previous cabinet had approved 150% salary increases for themselves. He immediately reversed these hikes and took the unprecedented step of capping his own presidential salary at $1,200 monthly, equivalent to his previous military wage. This salary is among the lowest for any head of state globally, less than 8% of what neighboring Côte d'Ivoire pays its president. When questioned about this choice, Traoré was characteristically blunt. How can I justify earning 50 times what a teacher makes while asking citizens for sacrifice? Leadership is service, not enrichment. Those seeking wealth should enter business, not government. Perhaps most dramatically, Traoré repositioned Burkina Faso's international alignments. In January 2024, Burkina Faso formally exited ECOWAS, the West African Economic Community long seen as French-influenced. Simultaneously, he strengthened ties with Russia and China, while co-founding the Alliance of Sahel states with Mali and Niger, countries also under military rule after rejecting Western-aligned governments. This geopolitical pivot brought military training from Wagner Group forces and new infrastructure financing from Beijing, but also sanctions from traditional partners and concerns about trading one form of dependency for another. Security remains the dominant challenge, with jihadist groups controlling significant territory despite increased military operations. In 2024, Traoré personally participated in frontline operations against insurgents in the northern Sahel region, generating viral videos but also criticism for what some called military theater. One of Traoré's most distinctive policies has been unprecedented financial transparency regarding his personal assets and government spending. In his 2023 mandatory asset declaration, Traoré reported a total net worth of $128,566, primarily military savings, and a modest inherited property in his hometown of Bondoukoui. He declared no foreign accounts, no investment portfolios, no real estate beyond his family home, and no business interests. This places him among the world's least wealthy national leaders. For comparison, even before entering politics, most heads of state accumulate millions in business, law or other careers. Many leave office with fortunes that far exceed their official salaries. More significantly, Traoré instituted a rigorous asset monitoring system for all government officials. By 2024, 3 ministers were dismissed for failing to declare properties discovered during verification processes. Anti-corruption campaigner Mariam Ouedraogo noted the impact. Before Traoré, asset declarations were a formality ignored with impunity. Officials would hide millions while claiming modest salaries. Now there's actual verification and consequences. When the president lives simply and enforces transparency, others must follow or face removal. This approach has yielded measurable results. Transparency International reported Burkina Faso's Corruption Perception Index score improved from 26 100ths in 2022 to 41 100ths by 2024, among the fastest improvements globally during that period. Critics note that military spending remains largely opaque, creating potential corruption blind spots. Human rights organizations have also raised concerns about using anti-corruption campaigns to target political opponents. Nevertheless, the contrast with previous administrations is stark. Under former President Blaise Compaoré, who ruled for 27 years until 2014, government officials routinely accumulated vast wealth with no accountability. Traoré's approach represents a fundamental shift in governance culture, regardless of one's view of his democratic credentials. Ibrahim Traoré's public persona is carefully crafted yet seemingly authentic, a paradox that defines his leadership. With over 2 million TikTok followers and massive Facebook engagement, Traoré has mastered modern communication while maintaining a traditional image. His social media features him eating the same rations as frontline soldiers, personally inspecting agricultural projects, and engaging directly with villagers in rural areas. Unlike many leaders who deploy professional image makers, Traoré's communications team consists primarily of military colleagues, who served with him before the coup. This creates content that feels less polished but more authentic than typical presidential messaging. Political analyst Fatou Diallo explains the appeal. Traoré speaks to a generation disillusioned with suit-wearing politicians who promise much and deliver little. When he appears in the same uniform as regular soldiers, or sits on the ground with farmers, it resonates with youth who feel traditional leadership has failed them completely. However, this popularity coexists with concerning authoritarian tendencies. In early 2024, Traoré's government banned several media outlets for what it termed divisive reporting, and restricted some opposition activities under emergency security provisions. His supporters argue these measures are necessary given the existential security threats facing the country, while critics see dangerous consolidation of power under military authority, with no clear path to democratic transition. Perhaps most significantly, Traoré's governance style is inspiring similar movements beyond Burkina Faso's borders. Youth-led protests in Senegal and Chad have explicitly referenced Traoré-style accountability and demanding reforms from their governments. Whether this represents the beginning of a new governance paradigm for the region, or a temporary populist moment remains to be seen. What's undeniable is that Traoré's rejection of presidential luxury, while confronting enormous challenges, has captured continental imagination. 6 sections into our analysis, it's essential to look beyond both the carefully constructed image and the dismissive criticisms to assess Ibrahim Traoré's governance experiment fairly. First, the economic reality. While gold nationalization generated headlines, Burkina Faso's economy remains deeply fragile. Youth unemployment exceeds 65% in urban areas. Agricultural productivity has declined 30% in security-compromised regions. International aid, which previously constituted 40% of the development budget, has decreased substantially following the coup and subsequent foreign policy shifts. Development economist Jean-Paul Messier offers this assessment: Traoré's sovereignty rhetoric resonates emotionally, but true economic independence requires developing production capacity, not just controlling raw resources. The real test will be whether his government can translate resource nationalism into sustainable development and job creation. Security challenges also undermine Traoré's narrative of self-sufficiency. Despite Russian training support, jihadist groups continue to control significant territory. Over 6,000 schools remain closed due to security threats, compromising the education of nearly 1 million children. Humanitarian organizations report that internally displaced persons increased from 1.8 million in 2022 to 2.2 million by early 2025, suggesting the security situation continues to deteriorate despite military operations. Political scientist Aminata Sanou highlights the central contradiction of Traoré's leadership. Traoré presents himself as the people's champion while suspending fundamental democratic processes. The question remains whether the personalization of leadership, however austere and seemingly sincere, is ultimately compatible with building sustainable institutions. This question extends to succession planning. Despite promising a return to constitutional order, Traoré's government has provided no clear timeline for elections. This raises the uncomfortable possibility that a leader projecting humble service could entrench military rule indefinitely. Yet dismissing Traoré as simply another military strongman misses important nuances. His lifestyle choices and transparency initiatives represent genuine innovations in a region where leadership has typically meant privilege and impunity. The rejection of colonial-era symbols resonates deeply with a population questioning decades of post-colonial arrangements that delivered minimal progress. As we conclude our examination of Ibrahim Traoré's unconventional presidency, several truths emerge simultaneously. In rejecting the traditional trappings of presidential power, the palace, the luxury cars, the inflated salary,
Traoré has created a leadership model that resonates powerfully across a continent where many feel betrayed by conventional politics. His personal austerity, whether political strategy or genuine conviction, stands in stark contrast to leadership norms that have dominated the post-colonial era. His economic nationalism, while controversial internationally, addresses the fundamental question many resource-rich but development-poor African nations face: who truly benefits from natural wealth? By asserting greater national control over gold mines, launching domestic production initiatives like the Itea electric vehicle, and redirecting revenue flows, Traoré challenges extractive economic relationships that have persisted despite formal independence. Yet legitimate concerns remain. Military governance without clear transition mechanisms risks institutionalizing authoritarianism, regardless of personal lifestyle choices. Security challenges continue to threaten national viability. Economic sovereignty, while emotionally compelling, must ultimately deliver improved living standards to be meaningful. In 2023, during a Unity Day speech, Traoré articulated the philosophy that perhaps best captures his governance experiment: we are poor, but we are free. Our wealth is our dignity. This sentiment, prioritizing sovereignty and dignity over immediate economic gain or international approval, reflects a profound shift in how a new generation of African leaders and citizens view development. Whether Ibrahim Traoré ultimately succeeds in translating this philosophy into sustainable progress for Burkina Faso remains to be seen. What's clear is that his rejection of presidential luxury while confronting enormous challenges offers important lessons about leadership in struggling nations. It suggests that addressing the fundamental disconnect between leaders and citizens might begin not with policy papers, but with the powerful symbolism of shared sacrifice. If you found this analysis of Ibrahim Traoré's unconventional leadership valuable, hit the like button and subscribe for more in-depth examinations of global leaders changing the political landscape. Share this video to spark conversations about what true leadership looks like in challenging contexts. This is just the beginning of Burkina Faso's story under Ibrahim Traoré. Follow our channel for updates as this remarkable experiment in redefining presidential power continues to unfold. Until next time, thank you for watching. What leadership traits do you think are most important in facing national crises? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and check out our previous analysis on emerging governance models across the Global South. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay informed about leaders reshaping our world.